Uh, and good afternoon, good evening, and good night, and hopefully, well, good morning, I should say, for everyone here in Australia watching, and hopefully my audio should be going out and you're not having to call me a boomer. Also, hopefully I'm not blowing anyone's ears out because I adjusted my audio. As everyone would know, or at least I would hope you would know if you followed me long enough, every year on Anzac Day I do the Dawn Memorial Service. I had actually intended to attend in person this year, but unfortunately got up at 4 a.m. and a few things just did not work out. So I wasn't prepared and in time to stream the memorial service from the Shrine of Remembrance here in Melbourne live. But thankfully, the RSL have put their live stream up, and we're going to sit through it. I've already sat through it, so I am going to be talking through this one simply because, and it's not in any way out of disrespect. It is purely because I need for the content to be transformative. So today, on the 25th of April, every year we remember the ANZACs, the Australian and New Zealand Army Corps, who landed at Gallipoli in 1915 during the First World War. What started as a military campaign became something much bigger, a symbol of courage, of mateship, and of sacrifice that still defines Australia today. We honour them and every Australian and Kiwi who served in fallen wars since, not because they won every battle, but because they gave something vital so that everyone else could live free. So we're going to take a moment, we're going to stand tall, if we can, and we're going to do them proud, because lest we forget. Now, very specifically, there is, as always, some controversy around Anzac Day. Not that I believe that it should be even remotely controversial. We had war memorials that were vandalised last night. We had people booing during the dawn services. I have no intention of politicising this, because as far as I'm concerned, every soldier that lost their life, their blood bled the same colour. So I don't really care if it was a white Australian and Indigenous Australian. I don't care what your preferences were, because everyone that gave their lives for this country did so that everyone can stand here today and bitch and moan about shit. So, without any further ado, I've got the audio on. Should be fine. I might skip ahead a little bit because I have no idea how long it was until I actually started. Main trouble with these streams from the RSL is you never know when the audio starts. Refrain from making a height joke at my expense. Thank you, Belle. Got up at 4 a.m. and was with my dad, who was ex-Navy, at the local dawn service in the march. Good on you, Darren. That's exactly what we need. We need people to be respectful and honouring this tradition. We really do, because the more that this disappears, the more we're going to lose part of our identity. Love that I'm able to get your flag floating around for this stream. That's very appropriate. Oh, well, there you go. And I do want to say thank you to those of you that do attend these streams with me each year. I do very much appreciate it. I'm just going to skip ahead because it's mostly going to be footage of the Shrine of Remembrance and the flame. And like I said, I'm not 100% sure where the stream actually starts. Oh, there we go. All right. I'll play it from there.
Good morning and welcome to the Shrine of Remembrance. The dawn service will begin soon. Please make sure your mobile phones are on silent. First up, I'd like to introduce one of our ambassadors for this year's Anzac Day commemorative march, is Warrant Officer Ricky Morris. Ricky is an Indigenous veteran and the 21st member of his family to serve. He's a veteran of East Timor and Afghanistan, and he's the formation elder for Victoria's 4th Brigade. Good morning, Ricky.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Ricky Morris. I'm a proud Gunditjmara man from southwest Victoria. And today, Anzac Day, is a very special day for me and my family, as it is with many veterans and descendants of veterans that are here today. I served with the Australian Army from 1990 and served in East Timor and Afghanistan.
Hopefully the audio should be okay. I've tried to boost it a little bit.
And as a proud Gunditjmara man, I'd like to welcome a fellow warrior, Uncle Mark Brown.
To answer your question, Jason, you'll understand the booing fairly shortly. The main issue that people are booing for is because Australia, for some reason, has incorporated the Indigenous Australian welcome to the country into every public event, shall we say. it's probably not politically correct, but I don't believe that that has any justification for being included in this. And it's not just because it's a difference between the white Australians that lost their lives during the war, which, you know, there were regiments from all races and ethnicities from Australia fighting and losing their lives. But the point is that, but I think that's the point, is that this is a solemn event that shouldn't have politicization included in that. There shouldn't be any form of division because, as I said, every soldier that lost their life, their blood ran the same color. It doesn't matter what your ethnicity or what your background was, because in this instance, they're being honored as Australian soldiers. And I had the same sort of issue when I saw that they were putting out Pride Parade poppies with one of the petals on it in the rainbow. I don't personally think that that's appropriate either, because as I said, this is about celebrating the lives and sacrifices of the soldiers. Your personal circumstances don't matter in this instance. So.
I am Uncle Mark Brown, Elder and Senior Cultural Heritage Officer of the Bunurong people. And today, I'm here to welcome everybody to my father's country. Beautiful Bunurong country. But before we do that, as always, we take a moment, we pay our acknowledgements, and we pay our respects. We pay our respects to all of my ancestors. We pay our respects to all of my elders. And we pay our respects to all of my community members, past, present, and emerging. And we acknowledge the continuous and unbroken connection to country for the Bunurong people. We also pay acknowledgements and respects to all traditional custodians of Australia, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander. And we pay acknowledgements and respects to all of my Indigenous brothers and sisters from around the world who work, rest, live or play on Bunurong country. We acknowledge their continuous and unbroken connection to country for all of their people. And we thank each and every single one of them for being here with us. But today, on the sacred lands of the Bunurong people, we all gather in the spirit of respect, unity, and reconciliation.
If it was about unity, I genuinely don't believe that this would have been part of it. Because as I said, this is about honouring all of the soldiers that have given their lives to protect this country and our way of life. But that's just my own 2 cents on the matter.
And this welcome is an opportunity. It's an opportunity for us to honour and respect the deep cultural heritage of the Bunurong people of the Kulin Nations, whose elders and community members have generously looked after these lands for countless generations. My people have a deep spiritual connection to these lands, encompassing all of our rivers, our mountains, our coastal areas, and all of our beautiful bushlands that surround us today. Our traditional territory spans from the Werribee River in the west and moves to Diggers Rest in the north. We follow it over to the Dandenong Ranges, the Yarra Valleys, and down.
And I've just got to say as well, I can understand why people, I can understand the booing. And I can also understand why they feel like what he said was potentially disingenuous as well. Because the whole thing about it being about harmony and reconciliation and that sort of thing. And it really does kind of feel like... I think a lecture's the wrong word to use there. Been in chat for a few years of Anzac days. The welcome to the country necessary part of the ceremony was it recently introduced as it required by government edict. basically government edict at this point. It's I haven't actually done too much of a look into it, but the welcome to the country is a fairly recent thing, but it has been put into everything, if that makes sense. So they do it before they play AFL game. So for those of you in America, imagine if they were doing this for native Indians before every NFL game. That's a sort of level of where we're at with it. So this has absolutely no place in memorial ceremony. That's kind of my opinion about this. I mean, for me, Anzac Day is basically a funeral, but it's a memorial for all the soldiers that lost their lives. If you were at your parents' funeral, would you expect the person observing the day to do a welcome to the country before you're laying your loved one to rest? Is sort of how I feel about this. So.
Down to Wilson's prom. We encompass the top end of Tasmania, which we share with the beautiful Palawa people. French, Phillip, King and Flinders Islands are also ours. And these are the traditional lands and territories of the Bunurong people that I welcome everybody to today. And as we gather here today, we gather in the respect of all of my people, my family, the Fighting Gunditj, and the Bunurong. So Wamanjenka, and welcome to beautiful Bunurong country, my father's country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you, Uncle Mark, and thank you very much, Ricky, for being here today. The dawn service will begin very soon with the official ceremony.
The trouble is, you've got to be very careful about what you say about that too. The mainstream media has already put out numerous news articles about people booing and that sort of thing. Apparently, it was significantly worse at the Sydney ceremony this morning. I haven't watched it. I don't plan on because it's not my local one. But let me just have a look. I don't like fast forwarding through this. See how many minutes we've got, because I don't have any filler prepared, so. God, it's still another. I mean, it's 7 minutes. I'm sure I can fill time for that. How was my weekend? Well, the weekend hasn't really started so much for me yet. I mean, it's, what is it, 10 to 9 a.m. on Saturday morning, so actually I've got an engagement party the weekend after next, and I've got my sister's Deb ball next week, so I gotta go suit shopping, as I've gotten a little bit more portly since I last had to wear one of my formal suits, and I'm not looking forward to it. Did they forget all the CO2 shit? Which CO2 shit? Respect is a two-way street. Most of them have none, so they can take a long walk of a short pee. So, yeah, we'll see how that pans out. I mean, obviously nothing's open before 1 o'clock today, so it's a Actually, that did really rile me up, because I do feel like the Labor government here in Victoria has been very disrespectful. Jacinta Allen, the Premier, our governor, basically went out yesterday and said, oh, if you're going to boo at these events, don't bother turning up. And then she's decided that all the tradies are going to get a public holiday on Monday, but the rest of the state doesn't. So I kind of feel like that's a little bit disrespectful, if only because you're being divisive against certain demographics in your own electorate. But also because you know, having a day off is kind of part of the Australian way of life. We don't get very many public holidays, and they're all loaded in the front end of the year. So refusing to declare one for Anzac Day for us feels a bit like a poke in the eye, if nothing else. So. Yeah, we'll just tomorrow I'll probably. I've been trying to put videos out on the main channel a little more frequently now, and I think I've worked out a formula where I can try and put out maybe 2 or 3 a week if I'm lucky. But just gonna have to work with it as I can. So. What time does the march start? So for those of you that don't know, after the wreath-laying ceremony, which happens at dawn, there's a few events throughout the day. And then at about 12 o'clock, the retired and returned servicemen that want to march will move from the, I believe it's from the Shrine of Remembrance through till, hang on, where are we? Melbourne's commemoration march is designed to enable those who have served our country and its allies to reform the ranks of their units and march to the Shrine of Remembrance, as a mark of respect for their fallen comrades. Descendants of veterans are encouraged and welcome participants. The march is also an opportunity for our community to honour and recognise those who have served and who are currently in service of the defence of Australia or its interests, especially remembering those who paid the supreme sacrifice or otherwise as a result of their service. Where are we going from? Where does it start from and where does it end? Order of march? Speaking of, why don't you cover live trials in Australia? Well, thank you for bringing that up, Belle. I put out a video a couple of days ago talking about the sub judice rule and why Australian media, myself included, are pretty well restricted from talking about Australian criminal trials while they're on foot. Feel free to go and watch that video, because although I wasn't quite happy with my cadence and, I'm my own worst critic and whatever else, I think it answers the question pretty well. But the long and the short of it is that there was a High Court case in 1987 that basically says that if there's any way that you're going to prejudice a jury, you can't post information. Yes, that was a particularly bad trial. You really flunked out on that one. I might just jump ahead the extra couple of minutes. Does that mean you're not covering the Katy Perry deal either, since it's currently under investigation? Yes, unfortunately. I mean, I can talk about things very generally, but I can't discuss the case in any way, shape, or form that would prejudice it. And unfortunately, that's all the interesting stuff, is that you can't talk about. So. At some point this weekend, I might get a new chair too. I've got a metal thing that's poking me in the back. Oh, actually, hang on. I can show this for a second. Little lady Overlaw'd has decided that she wants me to start putting her drawings on my merch page, and she did one for Anzac Day. So, I don't know if I'm actually going to put them on the merch page, but I still think it was a good idea, and it's a bit adorable. Oh crap! What was it? It was like 20. Yeah, that'll do. That's why I got to stop pressing buttons. Should know better than that.
It's a sad irony of war that terrible things bring beautiful words. Speeches, songs, odes, prayers, promises, words to say goodbye and words to say hello again. Sometimes the words are famous and often repeated. Others are chiselled at the head of a grave or on the walls of this shrine behind us. And some words are used by the great writers to describe things that are so terrible that they couldn't be imagined until they really happened. But we know that often the most beautiful words weren't meant for a crowd or a book or a whole country. And they weren't written to be repeated years later. They were for just one person. Since Australians have been leaving to fight across the world, they've been sending letters home, countless words of homesickness, humour, tenderness, and the longing for simple pleasures. Written in trenches, jungles, deserts, with the motion of the sea and from air bases. Written with pencil, with ink, in emails. And those letters, in there we see the raw character of the people who fought for this country.
It's a small thing, but this actually makes me incredibly happy. As I said at the start of the stream, I got up at 4. I wanted to be there in person, and it just didn't eventuate. But by the time I got back home and in front of the computer, this is pretty much literally where I took off, where I picked up from. So I'm extraordinarily happy to know that I didn't actually miss anything.
And some of them are so recent that we struggle to call them history. One of those letters was written by Corporal Cameron Baird. There were few people who understood modern warfare like this soldier of the 2nd Commando Unit, serving in East Timor, Iraq, and then Afghanistan. And it was in Afghanistan in 2013 that he sat down and wrote a letter, replying to someone he had never met, a Year 7 student who'd written to the soldier as part of a school project. And Corporal Baird could have filled half a page with a few scribbled cliches and platitudes, but he didn't. Instead, he wrote to the student with respect and simple sweetness, and with the honesty of a man who'd seen enough to know not to waste time. He wrote, "Firstly, I must say that you have excellent handwriting. It's so much better than mine, so I hope you can understand my writing. War is very complicated," he wrote, "and hard to explain. Sometimes my job is difficult, but I have good reason to do it. Making the world a safer place for others is one reason." The corporal went on over a couple of pages and answered every question the boy had, and then he finished with this: "Thank you so much for writing. It was great to hear from you. Remember to stay in school and enjoy it while you're there. Because when we get older, we have more responsibility and less time to play with our friends. Always try your best in whatever you do, and always remember to be happy in your life. Regards, Cameron." And 2 weeks after Corporal Baird finished the letter, and probably before the pages made it to the hands of the student, he was killed in Afghanistan's Uzgan province while doing just what he'd promised in the letter: trying to make the world safer. For his actions and self-sacrifice, he was posthumously awarded the Victoria Cross. When receiving their son's medal, Corporal Baird's parents, Kay and Doug Baird, were told by the Governor-General, "You are wrapped in the care and love of Australians across the country." And Doug Baird said, "To the mums and dads who have a serving boy or girl in the Defence Force."
Wholeheartedly agree with you on that, Chadwick. And for those of you that watched my video on the Ben Roberts-Smith stuff, thank you. I had to take it down because unfortunately with everything that was going on, I was a little bit concerned that I crossed the lines on that sub judice rule, which is why I actually did that video about the sub judice rule. We'll talk about that in a bit, but obviously I'll need to be very careful. And we'll talk about some of the other things that have sort of taken the luster off today, but we'll do that towards the end of the stream.
Don't be scared to tell them you love them, because you don't know what's around the corner. Beautiful words followed by a horrible thing. A horrible thing followed by beautiful words. And the irony of war continues. While we endure one, we search for the other. Perhaps it's like a funeral when the loss is so unbearable that the only hope is that time might dull the razor of grief. And while we wait, we reach for some words to help untangle our hearts. This morning, together in the dark, waiting for the sun, with the memory of wars behind us and the fear of more in front, we reach for them again. Good morning. My name is Justin Smith. On behalf of RSL Victoria, welcome to the Shrine of Remembrance in our city of Melbourne. It's an honour to stand here with you again. It's not far from here, this day in 1916, that Melbourne was preparing for its very first Anzac Day march, 110 years ago. And it was incredible for many reasons. It marked just 1 year after the Anzacs landing at Gallipoli. And it was only a few months after that disastrous, miserable and costly campaign had ended. Yet the Gallipoli veterans were still here, about to parade for a city that couldn't possibly have known the full horrors and bravery of what had just occurred 15,000 kilometres away. And marching with the veterans that day were Australia's new recruits, still adjusting their uniforms to get them to sit right on their young frames, and with nothing on their boots but what they'd picked up on the Melbourne streets. Fresh and eager, they'd soon be on their way to the Western Front. And what a remarkable moment in Melbourne.
Absolutely, a whole bunch of young men willing and ready to defend their country, which apparently now is something that most Gen Zers will not be willing to do.
Veterans of Gallipoli, where the Anzacs were born, here with recruits bound for what would become the most costly battles in Australia's history, at the Somme, Fromelles, Pozières, standing together, preparing to march.
No, of course, every year. It's something that is very true and dear to my heart, particularly with my late grandfather. So, and look, I'll be honest, I was a little bit disappointed this morning because I realized that there were a whole 4 people watching the original live stream. So thank you to everybody that is here with me.
One group looking far too young for war and the other far too old for their years. And you think, what went between them? Were there questions or warnings, advice, stories, maybe just a quiet smoke? We don't know. But we do know this. None of them would have guessed, even in the most untamed moments of their imagination, that this crowd would gather together 110 years later, and that you would be here in 2026 on the same day at a shrine built for them, with the same city behind you, waiting for the march, and gathering for the same reason. And through all the decades, the scene has repeated, the veterans and the young together. The numbers of one war would dwindle before being somberly replaced by the next, with new boots to walk with the old shoes. And today, many of the footsteps will belong to the men and women who fought or tried to cultivate peace in the Middle East. It's a part of the world that Australians in uniform know all too well. In 1989, after the Soviet-Afghan War, the bullets stopped firing, but the death continued. Afghanistan was plagued by millions of landmines and explosive devices. Thousands were killed, many of them children, and not merely by accident, but because some of the bombs looked like toys. So Australians went in as part of a United Nations mine-clearing team. Our service began in Pakistan to train Afghan forces to disarm the explosives themselves, but soon the job became far more dangerous when our teams went into Afghanistan. Members of the Royal Australian Engineers and the Royal Australian Infantry walked among the mines. It was a perilous 4 years, and as one veteran observed, It was a miracle that they all came home alive. In 1973, straight after Egypt and Israel had fought the Yom Kippur War, the United Nations sent a force to stand between the two countries on the Sinai Peninsula, and we were there. Hundreds of personnel from our Army and Air Force conducting long missions in a desert that gave everything a desert campaign promises: heat, sandstorms, and warring nations on either side. In 1991, when Iraq and Saddam Hussein defied the world, a maritime intersection force was deployed into the Persian Gulf, and for the next 12 years, 2,000 of our personnel from the Royal Australian Navy would come to know those waters well as they police against smuggling oil and cargo. And then in 1998, 200 members of the Australian Defence Force, including troops of the Special Air Service Regiment, joined Operation Pollard, supporting American forces to ensure Iraq was complying with the United Nations. And after the invasion in 2003, we were still there. Our Navy clearing mines in the Gulf, our Air Force flying FA-18s overhead, and our Army on the ground, hoping to give an old country a new start and a chance to heal.
It feels so wrong to have to interrupt this speech. And I'd like to clarify, again, I'm not doing it in any way, shape, or form about disrespect, but YouTube's being an absolute bitch about the whole inauthentic content and all that sort of stuff at the moment, so... Oh, John dropping a super chat over on Rumble, a Rumble rant. This may not be my Veterans Day, but having served in OIF in 06 to 07 and 10 to 11, I'm proud to celebrate with you and everyone here. Oh, thank you, John. And thank you for the Rumble rant.
This is Royal Australian Navy officer Helen Ward escorting a group of primary school children to watch the newly elected parliament. It was the first time Iraqis' children had witnessed democracy since the 1970s. Commander Helen Ward is still in the Navy. She's also here with us this morning at the dawn service. But there was also fighting, and there was an enemy, and it was dangerous. In Baghdad in 2004, Trooper Matthew Millhouse from our 2nd Cavalry Regiment was patrolling in an armoured vehicle when they were hit by an improvised explosive device. 3 Australians were wounded and Iraqi civilians were killed. But Matthew, although knocked out from the blast, seemed to emerge uninjured. But his wounds followed him home, like a hidden assassin. He was diagnosed with early onset dementia because of the explosion, an illness that claimed his life 11 years after he returned to his family. Quite rightly, his name sits on the honour roll. And that same roll cradles the names of our soldiers killed in the Afghanistan war, beginning with Sergeant Andrew Russell of the SAS. His death snapped us into the awful realities of war in 2002, when he became the first Australian killed in combat since Vietnam. At home, his baby daughter, Lisa, was just 1 year old. She would be a grown woman before the war that took her father was finally over. We'd never been in a war that lasted so long. And more than 40 other Australians would follow Sergeant Russell into that sacrifice, including Private Benjamin Renato of the 1st Battalion Royal Australian Regiment. Ben was born in Ferntree Gully, and in a hurry to serve, he joined the army as a teenager and was already a veteran of East Timor and a skilled and experienced soldier when he got to Afghanistan. He was also in love, and he had plans for his life. But he was just 22 when he was killed in 2009. His family said Ben had a smile to light up the darkest of days. And here he is again, lighting up the city. Benjamin's mother, Jennifer Ward, is in the crowd with us this morning. Welcome, Jen. And we hope you feel the love, respect, and pride of everybody here. And we can never tell the full story of the Afghanistan war without the thousands of Afghan locals who worked alongside our troops as interpreters. But they were not just translators and cultural advisors who had helped us tell between civilians and enemies. They were highly regarded comrades and friends. They did a vital job, and for them and their families, a uniquely dangerous one. While they were serving our country, they were serving theirs. It's a country that's now lost to them. Afghan interpreter Shiraz Ahmadi was one of them. He's now an Australian citizen, and he's also with us this morning. Shiraz, welcome, and we thank you for everything. "26,000 Australians served over 2 decades in Afghanistan, many enduring multiple tours. And today, as they march, this is the medal that they wear. For a century, our Air Force, Navy and Army have served across the Middle East, Iraq, Afghanistan, Kuwait, the Persian Gulf, the deserts of Sinai. We've been in the middle of fighting, in the middle of peace, between enemies along borders, hunting terrorism, leading fights and following others, and always with the expectation that another time will come. And it has. Australian Defence Force personnel are in the Middle East this very Anzac Day, deployed to protect Australian citizens during the conflict with Iran. In the Middle East, Australian lives have been lost and others have been changed forever, with wounds that meet them in the mirror or with injuries that can't be seen but will never leave them, as it has always been. In the Royal Commission into the Defence and Veteran Suicide, an officer of the Royal Australian Air Force said this about leaving her job: "You are no longer a civilian, and in reality, you never will be again. This poses one of the most difficult aspects of living in the ADF, or leaving the ADF. You no longer belong to a unit, yet you are no longer truly a civilian either. It is impossible to return to what you once were." As Corporal Cameron Baird wrote to the schoolboy, war is complicated. Peace is also complicated, and so is coming home. What is not is how we feel about you right now. To all serving members and veterans, wherever you are today, please know that we're proud of you, and please forgive us if we ever fail to understand those complications.
No. Oh, wait, no. I was going to say, don't forgive us for letting you down, because that shouldn't happen anyway. Realised a split second too late what he meant.
It's almost morning. The sun's nearly here, and when it comes, it will shine on what we have and the people we love beside us, with their faces not so much different from the ones our troops thought about when they went away to Kokoda, the Western Front, Vietnam, New Guinea, Korea, Rwanda, East Timor, Cambodia, Bougainville, the Solomon Islands and across the Middle East. The same sun that shone on desperate victories, unbearable loss, fragile truces, pride and grief. The same sun from 110 years ago when the Gallipoli veterans and the new recruits came together to march for Melbourne. Ever since, they have all had us searching for beautiful words to ease the terrible things. So perhaps before the sun comes, the sweetest words we can find are the simple ones, like thank you, and lest we forget. Will the official party please be upstanding for the dawn service? Dr. Mark Schroeffel, State President, RSL Victoria, will recite the ode.
They shall not grow old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget.
Lest we forget.
Stand down.
Would the members of the official party please be seated? We now welcome Her Excellency Professor the Honourable Margaret Gardner, Governor of Victoria, to present the Anzac Day address.
May roll my eyes slightly through this.
The Honourable Jacinta Allen, Premier of Victoria, Sarah Whitty, Federal Member for Melbourne, representing the Prime Minister of Australia, the Honourable Natalie Suleiman, Minister for Veterans, Jess Wilson, Leader of the Victorian Opposition, the Right Honourable the Lord Mayor Nicholas Rees, Lord Mayor of Melbourne, Senator the Honourable Jane Hume, Deputy Leader of the Federal Opposition, Mike Bush, Chief Commissioner of Victoria Police, Colonel Catherine Carrigan, Acting Chair of the Shrine of Remembrance Trustees, and Sue Blake, Interim CEO, Shrine of Remembrance. Dr. Mark Schroeffel, State President, Jack Crawford, Acting CEO, and members of RSL Victoria and members of other ex-service organisations, Victorian senior officers and members of the Australian Defence Force, representatives of the New Zealand Defence Force and of the United Kingdom and other Defence Forces, members of the Consular Corps. I begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands on which we are gathered, the Boonwurrung people of the Eastern Kulin Nations, and pay my respects to their elders, past and present, and thank in particular Uncle Mark Brown for his warm welcome to country this morning. I also want to acknowledge the past and present members of the Australian Defence Force with us today. Thank you for your service. I want to acknowledge the ANZAC ambassadors who will lead the Anzac Day March this morning. Commander Helen Ward, representing the Royal Australian Navy, Ricky Morris, representing the Australian Army, Rebecca Heron, representing the Royal Australian Air Force, Susie Wilson and Simon Rawson, representing veterans of the Gulf Wars, and Shariz Ahmadi, representing Afghan interpreters. Finally, I want to acknowledge the veterans of peacekeeping missions in the Middle East and Afghanistan who will lead today's march. Lest we forget, those words sum up Anzac Day. They sum it up because in this dark, before dawn, and in the light of the eternal flame, on this sacred day, and on this holy ground, we are here to remember. We are here to remember that first morning at Gallipoli. We are here to remember the millions of Australian Defence Force personnel who served and serve on our behalf. And we are here to remember the 103,132 men and women who lost their lives while serving in Australian military units. That is the solemn duty we share. Standing here this Anzac morning, many of us have some place or some moment or someone in mind that we cannot forget. It might be a place where we served. It might be a moment when our life changed. It might be a lost comrade or loved one. Each remembrance is personal, but if your remembrance feels heavy this Anzac morning, let me say this. Here, look around. You are not alone. There is a temptation when remembering past conflicts to speak only about battles fought in distant lands and skies and seas. The stories of those battles are worthy of remembrance, but we should also remember the battles fought closer to home and those whose support in all those conflicts has been difficult to see. For instance, I suspect many Australians have never heard of Monterey. Monterey is not a far-off nation or a city or a battlefield. Monterey is a building that's a short walk from the shrine, 17 Queens Road, South Yarra. Today, Monterey is a 3-storey apartment block. In 1942, Monterey was a joint Australian-US intelligence unit, FREMEL, the Fleet Radio Unit, Melbourne. This was part of Australia's Bletchley Park, the place where codebreakers cracked enemy naval signals. The Australians and Americans working at Monterey were the ones who gave Allies the advance warning that helped win the battles of the Coral Sea and Midway. They also warned of the invasion that led to the brutal fight along the Kokoda Trail. Like Bletchley Park in Milton Keynes, Monterey and Melbourne saved countless lives and shortened the war. And like Bletchley, many of the foot soldiers of Monterey never told their stories because they were sworn to secrecy. Warriors like Jessie Flanders, who served in the Women's Royal Australian Naval Service and only told her family about her work at Monterey after she received a Bletchley Park Memorial Badge from the British Prime Minister in 2011. Jessie took the Pledge of Secrecy so seriously, she didn't march in an Anzac Day parade until 2018 at the age of 97. Joan Fairbridge, not officially enlisted, was a servant of espionage and intelligence gathering from 1941 in the Australian Navy. Joan was warned, remember she's not enlisted, she would be shot if Australia lost the war. Remember, this was 1942, our nation's darkest hour, the year Singapore fell, the year that Darwin, Sydney and Broome were attacked, the year HMAS Perth was sunk, the year Melbourne prepared for invasion and slit trenches were dug into the lawns around this shrine. Joan Fairbridge knew what was at stake for herself, but like so many among us this morning and around Australia, she answered the call and served. And yes, most of the 80 Australians at Monterey were women. As I said, each remembrance is personal, but each remembrance for so many Australians of different backgrounds and genders and generations is connected by service and sacrifice and duty. Standing here this morning, we are ensuring the eternal flame of that duty remains alight. And none of us stands alone. The duty we share then is not just to remember the stories we carry within ourselves, but to honour the service and sacrifice of our fellow Australians because, as the inscription in the sanctuary of this shrine reads, "Greater love hath no man." Finally, I want to say this morning to the returned servicemen and women, your nation is forever in your debt, and we will never forget.
Nor should we ever.
Thank you, Governor. The poem In Flanders Field by Colonel John McCrae will now be recited by Ms Emily Mate, the Shrine of Remembrance Young Ambassador.
In Flanders fields the poppies blow, between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky the larks still bravely singing fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.
Beautiful, Emily. Thank you very much. The Melbourne Symphony Orchestra Chorus, accompanied by the Royal Australian Navy Band, present Abide With Me. Will the members of the official party please stand? The Melbourne Symphony Orchestra Chorus and the Royal Australian Navy Band present the national anthems of New Zealand and Australia. The official party will now move to the sanctuary of the Shrine of Remembrance, where the Governor will lay a wreath.
I muted for that
Members
because
of
no one
the
needed to
official
hear my
party
off-key
will
singing.
be carrying symbolic red poppies, which they will lay at the Stone of Remembrance. The red poppy, so often seen, is symbolic of Remembrance Day, but is now used at all services honouring veterans. The red poppies were the first flowers to grow in the spring in Flanders and across the once battled, mangled landscape of the Western Front during the First World War. And the sweet and delicate bloom is a sign of life, a symbol of giving, and a reminder that even from the horror, there will be a future.
Not allowed to be political yet. Mouth shut.
With the official party in position in the sanctuary, I invite the Shrine Guard to dismount. The Governor will now lay a wreath at the stone of remembrance on behalf of the people of Victoria. The Governor will now depart the sanctuary, while the pipes and drums of the 5th, 6th Battalion, the Royal Victoria Regiment, perform Sands of Kuwait with the Royal Australian Navy Band. The official party will lay their poppies as they follow the Governor's departure. Shrine Guard, dismount. That concludes the Anzac Day dawn service. On behalf of RSL Victoria, thank you very much for joining us on this beautiful morning at the Shrine of Remembrance as we remember those who served and the people who missed them and those who love them. And thank you to our ambassadors who are here this morning once more. Army Warrant Officer Ricky Morris, Navy Commander Helen Ward, RAF Ambassador Rebecca Heron, who served as a nurse in the Middle East, including the war in Afghanistan. Susie Wilson of the Royal Australian Navy, who was a radio operator on the HMAS West Australia in the First Gulf War and was one of the first of 7 women to serve a military role in a combat zone. Jennifer Ward, mother of Benjamin Renato, and Shiraz Ahmadi, former Afghan interpreter. Thank you for being here. Thank you, our Uncle Mark Brown, for the welcome this morning. And thank you, everyone. Good morning. And shortly, everyone will be welcome to lay a poppy in the sanctuary. We invite you to make your way up the North Steps. Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. Around 50,000, bub. Hey, neurodivergent. I honestly cannot remember if there's another bugler that plays after this. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that pretty well completes the ceremony. Thank you for all those that have joined. Once the music is finished, I'm going to move on to some of the more debatable aspects of Anzac Day. So, just giving the opportunity to know about now if you want to, but otherwise we'll start talking about some of the other stuff that's going on as well. I should probably start pulling some of that stuff up. Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing, Darren. I'm finding that it is the small rural towns that have more of a turnout at this point. Wonder why that could be. Oh, that's funny. I just searched on X for Anzac Day and I saw my own live feed. That shouldn't make me as happy as it does. Egotistical grin on Aussie. I'm just going to put the audio down there. Chadwick, to answer your question, the statue of the man with the donkey is, it's in relation to medics that were transporting people via stretcher using the donkeys. It's supposed to be Black Horse, and that's why I absolutely wanted to honour the memory of our fallen soldiers today. But I have every intention of ranting about some annoying pricks that have decided to politicise this, when they really shouldn't have. And I will continue to do so every year that I'm able to. I'm not going to lie, I'm disappointed that I wasn't able to be there today, and because I'd been planning it for a couple of weeks to actually physically be there. That's why I hadn't planned to do a stream live. You like it when I tilt at windmills. That's a bit funny. What are they placing at the foot? Poppies. So the leading up to Anzac Day, the RSL sells for donations little handmade poppy flowers, because they've basically become synonymous and symbolic with remembrance of our soldiers. I believe that they may do that in other countries as well, but poppies have become a very big thing here. Miss American, appreciate you putting this on YouTube. I should clarify, the RSL did stream it live. I'm just adding my 2 cents to it, and because I was always going to sit here and watch this, so I'm just happy that I'm able to share it with you. Is it a decline in patriotism? We will get to that. Actually, you know what? I'm even going to star that one for later. You can always tell the people that have never been there before. Alright, so I think I can pause that there for the moment. Ladies and gentlemen, I am going to play the outro because I'm going to cut this. So don't go anywhere if you still want to stick around for the rants and all that sort of stuff. But for those of you that wanted to watch the service and have done so, thank you so much for keeping me company while we did so. It really does. I find it very heartening that there are people that care about this, because it's a big thing for me personally. I feel like it's a major thing that is in decline in Australia, and I feel the need to try and keep that burning flame alive. And I just very much appreciate that people out there give a shit. So, anyway, I'm going to play the outro, and then we'll come back and, yeah.
I'ma just grab my stuff and leave. Excuse me, please. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Nope. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Alright then. I don't know what the fuck just happened, but I don't really care. I'ma get the fuck up out of here. Fuck this shit, I'm out.
And scene. Okay, so it's good to be back online. It does suck that it sort of took Anzac Day Remembrance to get me back on stream, but again, hopefully we're going to work on that. I'm discovering coffee, so hopefully I'll be able to start doing more streams of an evening my time, morning US time. It was really heartening to see how many people were getting up early to go to dawn service and participate in local marches in the area. Even the rain, there were so many people, it was lovely to see. That is fantastic, honestly. So honestly, that's because it is a major issue. Let me just pull some of these news articles and stuff up so that I can share. All right, that's my live stream, which I'm going to ignore. Most of the Daily Telegraph and Daily Mail, which is annoying, but I'll just have to wait and see if anything else comes out, which will be fine. Leave that one there. Daily Telegraph is paywalled, so I don't give a shit. Okay, looks like we're using mostly Daily Mail. No one hate me for that. It's more just they're the ones that have already put news articles out. Yes, I am just discovering the joys of coffee. Lady Overlaw'd has been kicking my ass for the last however long, because she's drunk coffee since she was 18. For the last however many years, I've been surviving purely on, well, as many of you may know, energy drinks and having some Coca-Cola of an evening. And well, you know, I've never been a big coffee drinker, but what I'm finding is that I need it. All right, now I need that one, which I'm not happy about, but we will watch it and talk about it. And what happened with the... Have they got the copy of the... that's the stuff about Ben Robert Smith, which is fine. I've got that ready to go. Yeah. Sorry, I'm not looking at chat. 1 second. I'll be right there. That one.
In the military.
Oh god, what has Fitzsimmons said? That's just gonna piss me off.
Few events in Australia.
That's the one from Sydney, because we'll have a look at that. Because we're going to talk about the Welcome to the Country. We're going to talk about what Jacinta Allen was doing in the days leading up to Anzac Day. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff. So, you can make an awesome sugar-free latte. Fair enough. Anything else in terms of news articles? See, the trouble that I have is that people are calling out the people that were booing. And I'm pretty sure last year and the year before, it was a whole bunch of soldiers that were actually involved in the booing as well. So the whole telling people to keep their opinions to themselves about the day is pretty disgraceful, if I'm perfectly honest. Australians are together in the thousands. It's the Australian, which I'm not going to be able to look at. Grab that post for Ben Robert Smith so we can talk about that very, very briefly. Move on from there. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. I wish I'd been able to like have all that ready to go, but like I said, I wasn't planning to do the live stream. So someone left who was the traitor. Oh, I'm not fussed. Like I said, if people want to watch the ceremony with me, that's great. That's the main thing. It's sharing the solemnness and the solemn duty of keeping that reverence and respect for the fallen soldiers alive that I really care about. But thank you to everybody that stuck around. Since she was 18, when was that? 5 years ago. Black Horse, I will tell her you said that and she will love you till your end of days. Coca-Cola never gave you energy. I'm learning that. And what I'm learning is that it's more that it's adding energy around the waistline as opposed to where it's supposed to be, which is, you know, keeping me awake. So have to have it taking classes with 18 to 22-year-olds that refuse to answer questions. Ouch. Jacinta Allen. Yeah, that works. But let's start with the thing that pissed me the most off when I woke up this morning. Vandals attack war memorials in Melbourne with graffiti ahead of Anzac Day. There were at least 3 war memorials last night that were sprayed with red spray paint, with anti-Anzac Day, whatever else. Now look, I am fully aware of the fact, and it's kind of hypocritical of me, because I'm very much free speech. I'm very much that all we have is political free speech. So it kind of makes sense that if I want that, we have to allow people to protest, which is fine and fair, and I can understand that. But I personally feel like treating a war memorial like a Jackson Pollock painting and spraying paint over it kind of does the opposite of what you intend. Prominent war memorials commemorating Aussie vets have been heavily defaced by vandals on the eve of Anzac Day. Footage captured by a TikTok user on Friday showed Port Melbourne's Answering the Call statue and nearby Centenary Bridge pylon graffitied and desecrated with anti-war slogans. The statue was covered in red paint with "No War for Oz" painted on the base, while the words "No Warships" could be seen written on the pylon. Vandalism isn't protest. Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that. I mean, in terms of free speech, all I can do is look at what the jurisprudence is from the US as to what is and isn't. So, you know, no VR ships they can't spell. It could just be that I'm not zoomed in enough. And this is sort of the level of stupidity of these people, though. Oh, Australia shouldn't have any sort of warships, so we should just be prepared. Exactly, don't defend the nation. We should just be ready to hand ourselves over. I mean, don't get me wrong, at this point it does feel like we're being invaded covertly anyway, but, you know, I'm not okay with this sort of shit. So, but it sort of makes sense when you've got shit like this as well. Alarming new poll reveals Gen Z's huge Anzac Day hypocrisy ahead of the long weekend. An eye-opening poll has revealed that the majority of young Aussies would refuse to make personal sacrifices to defend their country from a major threat. Now, I'm not saying I'd be happy to make sacrifices, but I definitely would do it for my country. I'd be next to useless because between my feet, my hip, and my hand, I'm not going to really do much. But the point is, I would do what is necessary to protect my family and my country, or at least I would have, before it went to shit under the Labour government. I'm not saying that the Liberal government prior to that was any better. I'm saying that what is happening now is significantly worse. Already taking that mentality, it's not really covert invasion. I've seen too many videos from Australia where there are no real Australians in the video. Oh, there you go. Do you want my Telegraph login? I appreciate the offer, but no, that's fine. Thank you. Get him out of my stinking house. News Corp's Growth Intelligence Centre surveyed 1,292 people earlier this month and found that Gen Z, those aged 14 to 29, and millennials, those aged 30 to 46, were the least likely to make sacrifices to defend Australia. Now, there's probably a few reasons for that, including a massive sense of self-entitlement that's been ingrained in them. We are literally at the end phase of the saying. Tough times create strong men. Strong men create peaceful times. Peaceful times create weak men. We had some fairly peaceful times and we wound up with Anthony Albanese in Parliament, so kind of think that's a given. But I do think that there is a current generational gap there between people that are willing to do hard work for the good of the nation and either confusing that with Marxist and communist ideologies, which we're going to get to in a minute, or they're just downright batshit insane. In contrast, 31% of baby boomers aged 62 to 80 said they were willing to make sacrifices for the country. Not sure how I feel about that, because I'm pretty sure at that age they know they're not the ones going to be making the sacrifices. That's the type of thing that makes one want to punch someone in the face just because there's too much... just because they are too much of a pussy to defend the country doesn't mean they can shit on those that did. Exactly. Weak men and women make children gay. Jesus, Acorn. Wow, I really need to proofread shit. On top of this apparent reluctance to defend the nation, more young people plan to participate in boozy tour-up sessions at pubs and clubs on Anzac Day than to attend a dawn service on Saturday. Gen Z also don't believe the United States can be relied upon, with 11% of respondents saying that they could count on with just 11% of respondents saying they could count on the major ally during a potential conflict. I don't know how accurate that, like, do I think we need to be able to stand on our own 2 feet? Yes, I do, but that kind of runs counterproductive to the whole, let's not defend the nation, but who's going to come to our aid if people don't think that the US would? And don't get me wrong, I fully would not expect the US to come to our aid, especially not as things currently stand. And that's kind of the problem that I have, is that we're just sort of being led as lambs to the slaughter at this point. I mean, we're not doing our own manufacturing, we're not doing our own resource production, we're not. Everything that would make economic sense for a country seems to be being gutted, and it's hard to believe that it's not being done deliberately. Just a friendly reminder, nation and country are not interchangeable terms, despite revisionists succeeding in confusing the two. There is that. Because our MSN's constantly lying about Trump's presidency. There is that too. Won't fight for your own country, you can't expect others to do it for you. Exactly. And the trouble is that we have a lot of people now that are citizens of Australia that do not consider themselves to be Australians. And I'm not being racist there. There is video footage of people walking around interviewing migrants here in Australia that consider themselves to, like, they still put their homeland ahead of the interests of Australia. And like, you can't say that I'm being racist about that when there's fucking video footage of them going, oh no, I'm a Indian first, or I'm a Pakistani first, or I'm a Chinese first. I put the interests of my home country before what I'm doing here. And it's like, so why are you here then? Oh, it's because you're putting the interests of other individuals first. I did see a news article a little while, actually, it was probably about a week and a half ago, about how apparently, like, Asia was investigating a bunch of Indian spies or something. Was it Indian? I can't remember. Point is, there was a Southeast Asian country that was being, there were espionage charges, and it had something to do with free trade agreements between the nations, and it meant that we had open borders, and that was one of the things that they'd been pushing as part of those free trade agreements. I'm just like, why is this being swept under the rug? Like, anyway. Federal Liberal Defence spokesperson James Patterson told News Corp that while Anzac Day was Australia's most sacred day, as well it should be, more had to be done to educate the next generation about the sacrifices made to protect Australia. And that is a major source of contention for me. When I was in, I want to say the 6th or 7th grade, when I first moved to Victoria, one of the classes that we had was social studies. It wasn't until year 9, maybe year 10, where Australian history was taught as a subject. And you know what? I skipped out of geography the second half of the year so I could retake it, because they taught it for 6 months and then you had to switch classes and go to geography. And I said, nope, I didn't take geography. Instead, I went back and took Australian history again. I still don't know if the teachers ever really cared about that, or if they had a problem with it or whatever else. But it really irritates me, because I can't blatantly come out and say this. The curriculum seems to be skewed against Australian history, and it's being revised to paint the country in a manner that would make students' minds more malleable and less patriotic, shall we say, for lack of a better explanation. Popular Chinese restaurant with roadkill in freezer. I thought it was joking about Chinese cooking dogs and cats. No, not that I'm terribly shocked. Oh. Sorry, that took me a second. You're looking at the other. Contrary to the founders of the country's intent. Well, the trouble is that at the moment, you got to remember, the founders of our country's intent was to have somewhere to send their convicts, because you guys in the US decided to have a Boston Tea Party. So I really don't know what the founders of the country intended, but I certainly don't think it was for... I certainly don't think that it was for Europeans to effectively be subjugated and replaced. One Nation leader, Pauline Hanson, said the reason Gen Z was unwilling to serve the nation was because they were taught everything about Australia that is negative. This is damn straight. Talking about the official formation of your country, not the British intent. I'm not sure if I want to go digging too deep into that, because by the time the Australia Act was passed and all that, well... Remember Anzac Day marches in the 1970s where you could shoot a cannon down George Street and not hit anyone? Now they're 10 deep on Anzac Day. Gen Z have got a different view of the world. They are very questioning, and some people aren't used to being questioned. I don't think that's a bad thing. Okay. When it came to introducing compulsory national service for young adults, 39% of Gen Z supported the idea compared to 67% of baby boomers. I'm not a proponent of, like, compulsory military service. I am a proponent of compulsory military service for young people that are repeat criminal offenders, for example. Because, I mean, the whole point of military service is that, admittedly, you get broken down into your base parts and rebuilt into a functioning member of the military, and hopefully after that of society, which for me is significantly better than someone, say, being on their 15th set of bail and then being released and committing a murder. But then I have the what do you call it? The, not conflated, the contrary thought. Well, shit, why would we train and arm people that have no loyalty to the country? Compulsory national service if you want the right to vote. I don't mind that. You don't want criminals in the army. No, that's my point. I want to get it to the point where you're getting to them before they're officially criminals. Or at least... So I'm talking like the delinquent area, if that makes sense. When asked if they'd be willing to serve in the military, 25% of participants said they would. This figure dropped to 21% amongst millennials. Like I said, I probably would if I thought that I was going to be of any benefit to them. I mean, don't get me wrong, if we wind up in a world war, sure. Hand me a rifle and I'll do my best. I probably won't make it very far, but... Serious question, wasn't Australia founded as a penal colony? Can't imagine they had lots of thoughts about the future in the world. Are we talking about after that? Not trying to be an arsehole. No. That's entirely it. Like I said, the reason that the British had to try and find someplace else to put their convicts is because originally the US were taking them. And then when the Boston Tea Party happened and you guys severed ties with the British, they had to find somewhere to send all of their undesirables. So they went searching, they found Australia, set us up as a penal colony, and eventually, after people had served their time, they were freed and they were, they were able to go about their business and that sort of thing. I think they expected Australia to turn into a substantially British colony, and I don't think that they really had too much foresight as to how things were going to pan out over the next, 100 years or so. But the fact of the matter is, the British are still the ones that claimed Australia. I mean, given what's happening in England at the moment, I'm not sure they can really say that they, succeeded or whatever else, but... What gets me is it took 58 years for the USA to decide to emulate another failed government, and we're too stupid to see it. Okay. But yeah. So, while we're talking about the Gen X's and the Gen Z's, and I showed this to somebody earlier today, and I'm not allowed to advocate for violence. I would never do that in the slightest. What I will say is that I would not lose a wink of sleep in the ridiculously remote offshot chance that this guy just disappeared. In my own personal opinion. Not that I would ever want anyone to ever do anything about that. I'm saying how I feel.
Sucks. And it shouldn't be celebrated. We're told it's all about remembrance.
It
but
is.
What's actually being remembered? And what's...
The sacrifices of countless soldiers across the planet, not just at Gallipoli, but in every war since. But go on.
being hidden. Anzac Day doesn't just mourn the dead. It romanticizes why they died.
Yes. Yes, it does. Because the concept of war and defending one's country itself is a very bloody and tragic circumstance that, you know what? Yeah, sure. If people knew the horrors of what actually goes on in war, it would dissuade people from joining the military, which is fair and reasonable. But it's also how we get heroes. It's also how we create myths and something to look up to.
It argues the necessity of mass slaughter.
No, I don't think it does. I think it argues for defending your country and your culture. And for thanking those that gave the ultimate sacrifice to do so.
To prepare us for further mass slaughter.
Nope. Can't see that in the slightest.
Anzac Day doesn't just want to remember the wars that we've fought in the past. It aims to justify them.
Nope. Don't see that either. This is what I mean when I say that I'm sick and tired of people forcing their own political interpretations into something that is very, very clearly a memorial. Again, how would you feel if someone like this showed up at your parents' funeral and said, oh, they were a butcher. This funeral is pushing... Oh, no, actually, that's an apt interpretation. Imagine if a vegan showed up at your parents' place. Sorry. Imagine if a vegan showed up at your parents' funeral and your parent had been a butcher all their life. And the vegan showed up saying, this funeral is pathetic, it's disgusting, they're pushing the slaughter of animals and this, that, and the other. Would you not punch them in the face?
And then it paints it all as part of our national history, as a way to unify us all.
Because it is a major part of our national history. The Gallipoli campaign was one of the first times Australians and New Zealanders from all walks of life united under a banner for a common cause. Can't recall any major offences instigated by the Aussies. Well, I mean, to be fair, at the time we were still under the British command, so that probably makes sense.
Under the flag. It serves to excuse the war crimes.
No, it doesn't. And we're going to talk about war crimes in a bit, because we're going to talk about Ben Robert Smith. In war, no one is free from the fear of dying. The hero is the one who, bound by duty and honour, refuses to turn away. Exactly. It is honour and it is bravery. It is knowing that something is difficult or frightening and choosing to do it anyway. I would be stunned if this guy had done anything even remotely brave in his life.
That have been committed in the name of Australian imperialism.
Australian imperialism? I have a button for that. Hang on. Why did that not play?
Keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Whether that be the Light Horse Regiment in Palestine or Ben Robert Smith today with his war crimes in Afghanistan.
Actually, I missed that the last time. What was he talking about, the Light Horse Regiment? Well, our dude was reaching, going all the way back to 2009. Early one night in December of 1918, just after the war, end of World War I, about 200 Anzac troops, including some of the famed Light Horse Brigade, surrounded the Bedouin village of Surafend in what was then Palestine. After expelling women and children, the soldiers, armed with heavy sticks and bayonets, descended on the inhabitants, murdering between 40 and 120 before torching the huts. The flames lit up the countryside for miles. Be interested to actually read more into that. Nothing braver than cutting your balls off and turning your wiener inside out, just trying... Oh, Jesus Christ, Anima. I have got to proofread things before I read them out.
Parades, uniforms, flyovers. This is all just a display of military power, dressed up as respectful and family friendly. But all this does is normalize militarism, especially for the next generation. While we hear the words, lest we forget, a lot is conveniently forgotten. Like the Great Strike of 1917 against...
He's actually going to use people protesting against wars to justify effectively desecrating a memorial service. Can I protest this guy's right to breathe?
Against the World War, or the moratorium marches against the Vietnam War, or the people who refused to fight and fought back against conscription, or just like the soldiers and the sailors whose experience of the war and of the military turned them against their generals and their captains, and turned them against the war and the whole system that produced such barbarity. History shows ordinary working class people rejecting war and militarism, but this isn't talked about because it challenges the narrative of the day.
How can it challenge the narrative of the day when the narrative of the day is literally that Australian kids are being taught to disrespect the Anzac legacy? This guy's a reject. He really is.
Anzac Day is all about militarism and nationalism. Both of which we should emphatically reject. Instead,
I reject your right to breathe. There, I've decided to protest against it.
To remember those who were needlessly sent to slaughter. To remember those who struggled bitterly against war and militarism. We do so the same today. We build anti-war movements, not pro-war parades.
Even if that was an accurate description of what you're doing, which it's not. The fact that you're conflating a memorial with the promotion of militarism is a useful idiot of communism. Yeah, I'm fairly confident that's accurate. Fucking hell.
Lest we forget all those who came before us.
Socialist influencer denounces Anzac Day as a day of Australian imperialism. What a wanker.
Do everything?
On the eve of Anzac Day, the ABC posts this video gloating about Indian soldiers in which their descendants boast about being a martial race and claim their soldiers' uniform is Indian inspired. I'm sorry, what? I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not necessarily agreeing with anything that Ozpil says. I think he's pretty far right of me, if I'm perfectly honest. But what the hell is this video by the ABC then?
Very proud to be a Sikh serving in the military.
My great-grandfather was an Anzac, so he was part of the Australian force. This medal is the Victory Medal, part of my great-grandfather's service during World War I.
It's sort of instilled in our blood to serve the country that gives you everything. Big culture, massive faith, we're all warriors.
I'm okay with that.
People think of that Australian soldier, they usually think of young white country boy. And while that is absolutely true for the majority of the case, there were men who were brown who went and fought as an Australian.
I joined after Anzac Day.
Any country singly united by Royal Gates, Hyde Park, and the Constitution Hill in the London Memorial. All memorial commemorating soldiers in Indian subcontinent who served for British in the First World War. Okay. I mean, we're really going to trust AI on that, though. Oh shit, they're citing Wikipedia. Never mind. All right. Thousands flocked to moving Anzac sunset tribute as Premier doubles down on public holiday. Was there a tribute last night, was there? Crowds have gathered in Sydney as millions gathered on the Sydney Harbour foreshore on Friday night for the usual Lest We Forget Harbour tribute to remember those who lost their lives serving our nation. Poem written more than a century ago during World War I provided the moving backdrop to the Anzac event. Well, yeah, the Ode to Remembrance is pretty iconic. It's the fourth stanza of the poem For the Fallen, penned by English poet and writer Lawrence Binyon, and was first published in September of 1914. The ode, recited by Anzac forces to honour wartime sacrifice, has been a staple of remembrance services since 1921. As the sun set, its memorable words, at the going down of the sun and in the morning we will remember them, rang out across Sydney Harbour. Oh, sorry, Sydney Opera House. Damn, my brain sometimes fills in words that just aren't there. Full orchestra and featured artists, including Patricia Amphlett and Dami Im, performed as rowboats carrying surf life-saving volunteers from various clubs dotted the harbour. Bagpipe veteran Warrant Officer Andrew Iverson also performed a solemn service. Oh, lovely. That's a... Just gonna say that that was not what I was expecting, and I'm very buoyed by that. Oh yeah, we gotta talk about the fucking elephant in the room. Like I said, I didn't watch the Sydney one, and those of you that watched saw the booing during the Welcome to the Country and the acknowledgement by the governor. Well, apparently this is what happened in Sydney.
Would you please welcome Kabi Kabi and Gurang Gurang Man, Pastor and Uncle Ray Minikong, to deliver the acknowledgement of country.
We gather today on land that is sacred.
To all Australians. Just saying.
For thousands of years, people have gathered in this place to share stories, to celebrate culture, and to remember.
Hello. Oh, you got another, stop there. You got another photo? Oh, you made some poppies too. Oh, beautiful, Munchkins. Very proud of you. Did you make these just now, or did you make this at school? Just now? I'm very proud of you. Munchkin, the Anzac Day stuff I'm not going to be selling, okay? But, because Anzac Day is very special, and we know this. I'm showing people the pictures, and you know what? This one I think I'm going to frame on my wall. Don't you say that! That's horrible! I literally was just talking about how kids need to be more respectful for Anzac Day.
Did I miss?
She gave me the photo. She goes, how do you sell these? And I said, well, I'm not going to sell them. They're for Anzac Day. I'm going to put them up on my wall. And she goes, I only made them to sell them. That's not embarrassing at all. Hang on, let me turn the camera off if you want to hug. No, you know the rules. You're not allowed on camera anymore. Come here. Huggy. Love you. Okay, that's enough of a hug.
Oh, I didn't say I wanted one. I was joking. Since
Oh, I couldn't care less. If you don't want a hug, you don't need a hug.
I want to hug.
Oh, you don't want a hug from me? Okay. Go hug your dog then.
I did.
You spoon the dog. Lovely. Anyway. Very proud of it. She's getting better. I'm really impressed with these poppies, though. She did really well. Like... All right, back to the shit show.
Our ancestors. These rituals make it a sacred site, a precious inheritance of land and ceremony. Sacred to the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, the traditional custodians whose ancestors nurtured it through time.
People actually got up and left. Holy
Today
shit.
we gather here at the Cenotaph in Martin Place, 110 years on from the landing at Anzac Cove. As Indigenous Australians were not of European descent, they were exempt from military service during the time of the First World War, a war that saw over 400,000 Australians enlist. It has been estimated that up to 1,000, perhaps more, Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people came forward to enlist. It is not known what motivated Indigenous Australians to enlist.
Oh, look, I think I can guess. What do you say? As much as 1,000 divided by 400,000 times 100. 0.25%. Now, I'm not saying that we should be in any way discrediting that. I'm saying, as I said previously, every soldier that lost their life on that battlefield bled the same blood. It's all the same color. It's all the same. Why does this guy look and sound like Stephen Attenborough? Native refers to someone or something born, raised, and originating in a particular place or existing naturally in a region. How am I not native? That's a fair point. Anzac Day has been hijacked by a political agenda. Shame on the politicians who not long ago stopped Anzac Day marches because of COVID, and then not long after that let thousands go to the footy. Shame on Jacinta Allen because she called for no boos on Anzac Day, insinuating that they were directed at our soldiers. The boos are directed at her and anyone who is hijacking Anzac Day for political agendas of their own. Anzac Day is not about the people that have been here for thousands of years. It's about the fallen soldiers of any colour that gave their lives and that have served to protect the country. Thank you! Very fucking straightforward.
Because that's not the.
Because here she was yesterday.
If anyone's thinking of.
The election cannot come soon enough, okay? I need this woman gone. I do. Bendigo Barbie irritates the fuck out of me. And even when everything happened with the childcare centre, the level of disingenuousness, in my opinion, was disgusting. Like,
coming to an Anzac Day service anywhere in this nation with an intent to disrupt. If anyone's thinking of coming to an Anzac Day service anywhere in this nation with an intent to disrupt, to disrespect the fallen and their families, then
do I need to point out the hypocrisy here? Like, really?
stay home. Because that's not the Australian way. That's not the Australian way.
Oh my god, and she actually said that. It's amazing how they will trot out the it's not the Australian way. It's un-Australian when it suits them. Oh, we don't want to protect the Australian way. We don't want assimilation or integration or anything like that. We want everyone to come here and for Australia to basically disintegrate. But it's not the Australian way to point out anything that's divisive and that you were unhappy with.
For those who fought under our flag, fought for our freedoms and democracy, and fought for us to live peacefully, and on one day, show respect. If anyone's thinking...
Then you fucking show respect. That would be amazing if you could do that, to start with. Alright, and last but not least, I kind of feel like I need to touch on the Ben Roberts-Smith stuff. As I said during the... I think I said it in chat during the ceremony part of the stream. I did do a video on Ben Roberts-Smith, and it was up. It got, what, 800 views? I've got to try and be more consistent with the videos and that sort of thing, because I'm getting hammered in the algorithm. I mean, I know the whole Mr. Beast thing is that, you know, if it's not that the algorithm didn't like it, it's the audience didn't like it. That's a crock of shit, because I know how many people were searching videos on Ben Roberts-Smith, and I know the level of impressions that video got, so. But I did take it down because I was worried that I breached the sub judice rule about commenting on ongoing criminal matters. So I'm going to be very fucking careful about what I say here. Because it is an ongoing criminal matter. You're not supposed to make any colour commentary on anything that could even remotely prejudice a trial here. Which I think's a crock of shit, but anyway. Accused war criminal Ben Roberts-Smith is seen chatting with veterans and smiles for selfies with supporters at the Anzac Day dawn service a week after his release from custody. Accused war criminal Ben Roberts-Smith has made appearances at an Anzac Day dawn service in Queensland this morning. Australia's most decorated soldier was seen at the service on Currumbin Beach on the Gold Coast earlier on Saturday morning, his medals of service pinned to his jacket. I never thought about not coming, I was always going to be here, he told the ABC. And I'm not going to lie, I thought about it at the time. I thought that the timing of his arrest was done deliberately. And thankfully, I don't think that that's in any way going to get me in trouble. I also believe that his arrest in Sydney was done specifically for a reason. I'm going to let that sit. I'm not going to provide any response or explanation for that, because that one might get me in trouble. Photos show a beaming Roberts-Smith chatting with veterans, shaking the hands of a naval officer and smiling for selfies with supporters who turned out for the dawn service. The former Special Air Service soldier attended the service with his partner and his parents. His partner appeared to be moved by the ceremony and was seen blowing a nose as thousands turned to pay their respects. I wonder why someone who is... I wonder why someone who's in a relationship with a soldier might be emotional at an Anzac Day remembrance ceremony. Robert Smith said he was thinking about the families of service members and the ultimate sacrifice made in the defence of the nation. He said the country owed them a deep debt. Everyone should be reflecting on and commemorating the service of the Australians that have given this country, service of all those Australians that have given us the country that we live in. It comes after Robert Smith was released from custody on April 17th for a $250,000 bond. The 47-year-old SAS soldier spent 10 days in Sydney's prison after he was arrested on April 7 and charged with murdering or ordering the murders of 5 unarmed detainees while deployed in Afghanistan between 2009 and 2012. Each of the charges against Robert Smith carries a maximum penalty of life imprisonment. He has always denied involvement in any unlawful killings. He is expected to return to court on June 4 and has been required to surrender his passport and has yet to enter a plea. How many votes would he get for PM, you think? That's a good question. I really don't know, and I don't know how I can answer that without getting in trouble. Despite the allegations, many supporters turned out for Robert Smith on Saturday morning. The owners of a home in Currumbin Hill overlooking the dawn service showed their support with a giant banner draped over the balcony saying, "We support Ben Robert Smith." RSL Queensland State President Major General Stephen Day said he was happy to have him at the dawn service. He's absolutely welcome at any service he chooses to join. We don't, as a matter of course, send out invitations to individual veterans or members of the community. That's not how it works. Our services are open to everyone. On meeting fans at the dawn service, one told Robert Smith to keep fighting, mate, prompting the war hero to say that the support was overwhelming. I love how they've turned off the comments, though. Australia's most decorated living war hero, Ben Robert Smith, was overwhelmed by well wishes at the Anzac dawn service this morning at Currumbin in Queensland. Never thought about not coming. I was always going to be here. He's absolutely welcome to any service that he chooses to join. The Albanese government's persecution of this man is a national disgrace, says Ryan Daly. Hey, look at that, AJ. Yeah, look, as I said, I have to be careful about what I say. Do I believe that he should have been arrested the way that he was? No, I do not. Do I think that you know what, I'm just going to go back and re-edit the video and see if I can make that work better, rather than doing this on the fly and getting myself in trouble again. Folks, I might actually call it a day there. So thank you so much to everyone that has kept me company and everyone that watched the service with me. I hugely appreciate it. But today is a day of reflection for those that gave their lives so that ours could be a little bit better. But today we honor all of those that made the ultimate sacrifice. We remember them. We remember what they gave us. And frankly, we need to tell the next generation about the sacrifices that they gave and why they should be remembered. But as always, people, stay healthy, wealthy, and wise, and I will catch you all on the next one. Cheers, peeps.
This shit, I'm out. Fuck this shit, I'm out. No thanks, don't mind me. I'ma just grab my stuff and leave. Excuse me, please. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Nope. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Alright then. I don't know what the fuck just happened, but I don't really care. I'ma get the fuck up out of here. Fuck this shit, I'm out.
Keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Maybe if I press... try and work out what the... Oh no, see, now the audio's working. Alright, so what have I got? Pull up the list. Notifications, what's this? Oh, someone liked it, okay. Nothing surprising. Okay. Run it. Oh, damn, I wish I knew about that beforehand. Lest we regret, Education Minister slams ignorance of history. Jason Clare warns young Aussies of forgetting their history as he blasts neo-Nazis on the streets and doubles down on Australian values for curriculum reform. Well, I mean, we can only hope that there's some curriculum reform. It's been a dramatic week for education news. Queensland scandal engulfing the Anglican Church and prestigious schools, which are in turmoil following the suicide of a Brisbane pastor accused of child abuse. Ooh. Consultants have been hired to investigate the alleged bullying culture inside the South East Queensland division of the church. Former principals also revealed, don't care about that. Town of Victoria covered the plagiarism claims. Okay. Don't care about any of that. Still alive, hun. Thanks, Bob. I noticed her because a notification popped up on my phone. I literally had it in my hand. Like... Bye.